Hello, everybody. My name is Ranger Adler, and I would like to introduce you to something that's very special to me. Now, that's just a small snippet of some of the beauty we have here in East Tennessee. There's many more places across the country that you can go and visit as well, but we are blessed to have the most visited national park right in our backyards, but quite frankly, it's needing a little bit of help. So, with that, I have created the Great American Outdoors Reinvestment Act. So, the Great American Outdoors Reinvestment Act is a nationwide program that would spend $26 billion for most of America's public lands. This is aimed to deal with the $33.6 billion deferred maintenance backlog and fund some new projects and kind of help overhaul some of the volunteering opportunities and the procedures and that need to be done to help keep our public lands running. Now, what does this mean for Tennessee? Because it would bring $338 million to our federal public lands, excluding TVA. It would address the deferred maintenance and help fund the new projects and expansion, and like I said before, help with the volunteer opportunities, which is really good for Tennessee since Tennessee offers free community college if you volunteer so many hours. So this would kind of help build that relationship with the state and our federal programs. Now, most of these lands are in the East Tennessee region, excluding land between the lakes. So we'll start off with land between the lakes, which is a national recreation area, which is ran by the U.S. Forest Service. They would receive $10 million. So this money is non-competitive. So this is what they get, so they don't have to compete against everybody else. Big South Fork is a national recreation area ran by the National Park Service, received $7 million. Cumberland Gap and the Manhattan Project National Historical Parks would receive $7 million each, and the Cherokee National Forest and the Smoky Mountains National Park would receive $150 million in each because they are the bigger lands and make it over the threshold. The National Historic Parks across the country all would receive $7 million, and the reason is historic parks are very different than traditional parks, and it just makes it a little bit easier because they don't necessarily have the campgrounds. They're not as big as a national park or national forest. And national recreation areas are on the $10 million because they have more of a recreation type impact with it as well. There are 8 components to the act. The core investments, which is a majority of it, where every park and forest gets an X amount of dollars where it's non-competitive. Recreational buffer zones are something that are more that we need to discuss later on with National Forest. This would also invest in the Appalachian and Benton McKay trails. That's about $2 million on them. There would be a competitive land grant. So any park like we have Bureau of Land Management, which are more out west, and a few others kind of fall for the cracks, so that would actually leave about $500 million for that. So there would be parks that would be competitive. Fire tower restoration program of $40 million, a personal favorite of mine. Volunteer Board Act. This is more for the Cherokee National Forest. We'll go into that. And live stream cameras and seasonal workforce and stability support employment. So what that does is that goes in and makes sure that the forest has the adequate staffing and funds available to make sure that we are keeping our parks and forests staffed up through the busy seasons. So kind of a breakdown with the funds. We're going to start off with the $150 million. So we just kind of use the Cherokee National Forest as an example. Half of that money, $75 million, is exclusively for roads and bridges. $50 million of it, 33% of it, is for campground and recreation. So what that basically means is if you want to add electric to a campground, if you want to restore a campground, the bathrooms, dump stations, basically go in that. Recreation kind of falls into the idea of if we need to build a facility for a horse trail or a boat ramp, an overlook. That's kind of what that is, what that category is. Visitor and administration, visitor centers. Overlooks can kind of go into that as well, but visitors and administration. So, for example, if the visitor center wanted to put a TV in and needed internet access to do that, that is where that money comes from. $10 million for trails, that goes for bridges, tools to maintain the trails, the volunteering, better signage, that's what that goes. And then there's a $10 million discretionary fund, and that basically means that they can do whatever they want with that $10 million. They may need to spend it especially on a road project that could be more than that $75 million there. Now, there is no breakdown on national rivers, recreation areas, and historic parks, basically because they're getting such a little bit of amount. Their needs are unique, very unique to what the specific historic value of that land is. All right, so now this is the big thing. Now, the Smoky Mountains has the Friends of the Smokies group. I don't really necessarily go there much, so I don't have a lot of ideas for the Smokies, but the Cherokee National Forest is my bread and butter, so we're going to kind of talk on the major projects for that. And the big one, which is a must-do, is the Tellico River Road overhaul. Add a live stream camera at Bald River Falls, Turkey Creek Overlook, and the Hiwassee Mountain Historic Fire Tower site. Rebuild and restore Houston Valley, Quinton Springs, Silco, and Tumbling Creek campgrounds. Add power to campsites at Little Oak. Replace the Panther Creek, Donnelly Cabin, and Tellico Hatchery pedestrian bridge. Replace all the fire rings and picnic tables as need be. Add a dump station to the Thunder Rock campground, as well as pay showers and flush toilets at the North River check-in station. Pave the road to Green Cove Pond, add power and a couple extra sites to Spivey Cove Campground and put that on a recreation or on a reserve basis. Add power to the McNabb Group Campground and regrade all gravel roads in the forest. Now, here is the big one, the Tellico River Corridor overall. This is a must-do. If they accept this money, I actually have it written in my proposal that this is something that they must do and have done. They need to take Tellico River Road, which is Forest Service Road 210, from the Skyway to the state line, must be tore all the way down to the ground and properly repaved over again. That's about 20 miles worth of road. That's about 18 foot wide in most spaces. They must clean out the ditches, and culvert replacement is a must if need be in those sections. Areas where the road is starting to kind of fall into the river must be corrected. Try to widen the 8-foot road wherever possible. And better signage, and I want to introduce there being little tiny mile markers because, as you all know, that is one long road to have to take all the way up the mountain. Recreational Buffer Zone Act. So this is what we were talking about earlier. So in a national forest, it's a land conservation, land of many uses, which means they can come in and log. They can get oil. They can coal mine on those lands. That is the meaning of it. There are protected areas in a national forest, like the Bald River Gorge Wilderness Area and the Sitico Creek Wilderness Area, that are protected, which kind of makes it like a national park. But there are some downsides to a protected area like that. When they were rebuilding Bald River Falls Bridge, one of the biggest concerns people had is, well, can we add more parking? They can't, because they are right up against a national wilderness area. You can't even fly your drones up above the waterfalls there because you were right on the edge of that land. So it kind of created a little bit of a headache. So one of the issues is recreation is just as important and is a economic piece of the forest as well as timber. So what we want to have is we want to make sure we have certain areas in the forest that are protected. And what I propose is a thing called a recreational buffer zone. This would put on the side of a road, so the Tellico River Road, 500 feet on both sides of it would be where you can't cut down trees, you can't get any coal or oil, which there isn't any down there, so we're really worried about the timber rights. And as well as a few other areas would be protected as well. So the whole Tellico River Road would be protected, and that would be called the Tellico River Corridor Buffer Zone, the North River Road Buffer Zone, as well as the Green Cove Pond. The Green Cove Pond would have a 500-foot around the perimeter of it, and all developed campgrounds would have a 500-foot buffer zone around it to prevent from logging and that up against it. Now, what's the importance of this? Well, if the campground wants to expand, or if they need to widen the road, they want to put in a boat dock, they can do that. In a designated wilderness area, they can't do any of that. So this allows there to be disruption of trees and stuff as long as it is in the needs of recreation improvements. Volunteer Forest Board Act. So, forests are a little bit different than a national park. Volunteers kind of go in and set the prices on campsites and other activities in there as well. The problem is the Resource Advisory Committee is done by regions, and there are 8 regions across the country. And what's important to the Cherokee National Forest might not be as important to the Pisgah. So what this does is this puts a volunteer board in every single forest of 5 people that would serve a 2-year term. These guys can only, the members have to live within a 2-hour drive of the forest boundary and must hold 3 public forums a year and must meet monthly. Each unit is going to receive $37,000 a year for this, and what this does is this can go for the members to go for travel, because it is a volunteer position. If they need to stay overnight somewhere for something, and to be able to help kind of with materials and stuff like that, to be able to, community events and administration operations, to get the community involved. The Appalachian Benton McKay Trail Program. Okay, so this would provide a total of $200 million. It's going to be split, $100 million for Appalachian Trail and $100 million for the McKay Trail. This goes in and funds all trail repairs, erosion control, footbridge, drainage, goes in and repairs the little tiny shelters along the way. It also goes in if there are certain areas where the trail goes across the road and maybe a bridge needs to be built across it or help rerouting, the money can also be used for that. It tries to get the Benton McKay Trail recognized. It's the same category as the Appalachian Trail is, and gets it to its respect. The volunteer boards over that can kind of mitigate the needs of the usage of that money on what they feel fit, since they know what's best for that. Historic Fire Tower Restoration Act. This is a personal favorite of mine. So, basically, there'd be $40 million for that. A form has to fill it out. The volunteers have to come together, and then the funding of it goes into effect. So, once we go through all that, the fire towers that I feel that need to be restored is restore the Star Mountain Fire Tower into a primitive overnight rental. I believe that would be a good little Airbnb. It wouldn't be anything any fancy, just no power, anything, something to stay overnight in as well. We'd have to remove some of the radio equipment off of it, but that's what that money would go to, and maybe put in a little porta potty or Volt toilet in it is what I think would be great. Overnight rental. The keys and stuff like that would be kept at the Cherokee Visitor Center, so I'm sure they would be happy to participate in that. Add a viewing platform and a picnic like area to Buck Bald and Washizi site. So those were 2 fire towers at one time that's been removed, but the area is still open. So adding a viewing platform and kind of turning it into a picnic table with maybe some grills and even adding a vault toilet would be nice to kind of make those sites a little recreational and kind of talk about the historic significance of it, but also adding a platform or even putting in a fire tower that's from somewhere else in there as well. Restore the Hall's Top Fire Tower and the Holston Mountain Fire Tower as well. So Hall's Top has just been vandalized. It needs some new stairs put into it, and that whole area needs a little bit of love and care as well. The Holston Mountain Fire Tower, the frame is there, but the top is burned. That needs to be restored, and the stairs getting to it to be a little bit more safer since it is one of the highest fire towers there is. And so that is it for Tennessee. I'm hoping that you guys are inspired by this and hope to talk to your congressmen and senators so we can maybe get this in front of Congress, because this is something that's very important. Every day goes by, more and more damage is done. Most of this infrastructure was built back in the 50s and 60s, and it's getting well past its due date. And some of it was even built back in the 30s and 40s during the CCC. So we have to think about that. Back then, people didn't think we'd have the vehicles we had today, the campers like we have. But with this small investment, we all know here in East Tennessee how important tourism is. I think this will help go for a very long way. So I appreciate you guys watching my presentation.